And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Antwood Movie Mania. And we are live because it is interview time. And my special guest today has starred in the popular series Monster Garage, along with Pastime. He has starred in one of my favourite TV shows, Buffy and Angel. And he has took on the face of the iconic Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 remake. So I would like to welcome to the channel Brett Wagner.
Hey, how are you, buddy?
I am doing very well, thank you so much. Before we get started, I always say this to everyone who comes on the show, like on my channel. Just a big thank you to taking the time out of your day to come onto my channel and just talking about your career and everything you've done, work-wise and like socially and career and everything. So I just want to say a big thank you for you to coming on the channel.
My pleasure, buddy. I appreciate it. So the folks that are watching me, I told some folks that might be watching, where are you located?
Oh, all right. Well, tell them thank you for watching.
No, where you're in the UK, correct?
Oh yes. I'm in the UK. Yeah.
What part of the UK?
The northeast, like in between Newcastle and Middlesbrough. So I'm in Middlesbrough. So I'm like about an hour from Newcastle. If you know where that is. If you know where that is.
I do know where Newcastle is. Pretty cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just about an hour from there. So, but yeah, I've been looking forward to this like all week. So I just want to say again, thank you for coming on.
No, I'm glad we got it in. You know, I got lucky. Tomorrow I'm filming an episode of NCIS in the morning, and then I fly on Thursday. I fly to Germany for a weekend of horrors. So,
oh wow, well,
it's a busy week.
I'll promise I'll try not to keep you too long.
No, you're good. I'm just letting the folks, your viewers, know that it's we get busy, especially when you do a lot of conventions and you're in the we call it the con life, and you're doing a lot of the horror movie conventions. The next 3 months are very busy for us all. So I've been on the road. This will be my 4th weekend in a row, and I think I have about 7 more weekends in a row. So,
wow,
busy.
So, right. So my first question of the day is, how is your day going so far?
Good. I went to wardrobe today for NCIS, which was cool, and then went and picked up some pens because when you're doing the conventions, you got to have some good pens to sign with. So went and grabbed all that stuff. Got myself a universal charger for over in Germany and the UK, because if you can't charge your phone, you're in trouble. So had to make sure of that. Had to call the phone company to make sure when I'm calling from Germany, there's no issues on my phone, because the last thing you want to do is come back with a $2,000 phone bill.
Oh, so when you do conventions, like when you just said when you were picking up pens, like I always just assume that when you got there, the company just provided all like the pens for you. You've got to like take your own.
Yeah, I mean, the UK and overseas might be a little different. Sometimes they'll have pictures for you. Not in the US, out here in the United States, and you got to bring in Canada, you got to bring your own stuff, and it's better to be prepared. I mean, sometimes, I have the high def pictures that I need, and I go to the stores that we get, that'll duplicate our pictures for us. So I always bring stuff. You can't rely on, because sometimes I've gone to a convention and the pictures, especially overseas, they had for me, I brought my own just in case, because the pictures they had were not good. They were blurry, and that's the last thing I want to do. If someone's going to give me their hard-earned money for an autograph and a picture with me, I don't want to give them a crappy picture. So yeah, you got to bring your own stuff, and you just tie it in. I mean, it's, I have to buy merch every couple of weeks. I got to make sure I have, if I have my masks, or hold on, let me grab one. real quick. So, when you have your masks, my leatherface masks, which sell pretty cool, and people want those, you got to make sure you can get them. And I get my stuff through Trick or Treat Studios, and sometimes these, the masks are out, or certain pictures are out, and or other stuff that we sell, the comic books that have to be, so you got to be prepared. You can't rely on anybody. If you rely on someone else, then they'll all 9 out of 10 times something bad will happen.
No. When you said when you came over to the UK and everything at the Comic Cons, when you said that the pictures for you when they were all blurry, were they just all like random snapshots of like things?
No, I mean they are looking for. They might find pictures online. Some of them will ask you, "Do you have a high def, photo of this that you can send to us?" And they'll print them off. But you just got to make sure that and not all of them are blurry, but you just want to make sure that you have the best merchandise and pictures. If someone's going to spend 40 euros or $40 US or $50, you want to make sure you give them a good picture. Just trying to find my stand for my mask here, but yeah. So, but it's fun. The only non-fun thing about going overseas is a 14-hour flight.
Oh,
I mean, Germany will be 12 hours. That's not the funnest thing in the world, and unless you're flying first class, which I'm a big guy, right? So if you can fly first class, it's great. But flying first class to Europe is about $7,000 US. So
that's a lot of cons to
not many people are going to pay that, unless it's Kane Hodder or Robert England or something like that.
Oh my life. God. So I want to try and take this step by step, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, go.
So take us all the way back to before you got into acting and everything, because I'd seen on like a previous thing that you'd done that one of your first jobs was working in the arcades. Is that right?
What was that?
One of your first jobs was working in the arcades.
Oh yeah, an arcade. Yeah, arcade's the same thing, right? The UK and over here, pinball place. Yeah. One of my first jobs, 16 years old or 15 years old, I used to work in an arcade. I used to spend so much money there that the owner said, "Hey man, I need someone to work a couple days a week." And I said, "Do I get to play all the games I want for free?" And he said, "Yeah." So I'm a big pinball guy. We have a couple pinball machines here. We have the Terminator 2 pinball machine, and there's guys out here called Spooky Pinball that do the new Evil Dead pinball machine, and they also do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre pinball machine that came out over a year ago. So I'm hoping to get my hands on one of those.
I didn't realize they'd done a Texas Chainsaw one. I knew last year they'd done a Halloween one. Like they brought a Halloween one out.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. Same people, Spooky Pinball. They did a Halloween. It's great.
Yeah, I didn't know they'd done a Texas Chainsaw one though.
Yeah,
I'll have to look.
And then the big seller this year is the Evil Dead. It's great.
Oh, that's one thing. Like I've always thought about. When you say, "Oh, like I've got a job in an arcade place," like, "Oh, it's just who would want a job in the arcades?" But when you actually go in there, and then like you just said, you got to play on whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
Like you go in there, and then you spend all your money because you just want to play on everything.
Well, I mean, working there, I didn't have to spend money, so I got paid, and then in my off hours, I got to go in and play free games. So yeah, it was well worth it.
Yeah, that must have been a fun job. I mean, because like whenever I go into the arcades, like I just want to go on like all the 2 pence machines and play like gun games and anything like that. So it must have been great to just go on whatever you wanted.
Sure, it was awesome. I mean, but I did that for about a year, and then I was a big kid, and I kept getting bigger. So then I started working all the bars, and I was 17 years old working bars in Hollywood,
Holy
which was great. And then as I got a little bit
that's
older, working the bars was really good because I wanted to be an actor. And so when you have your days free, you can go audition. You get an agent, then you start getting auditions, and because it never happens that all of a sudden. Very rarely do you become an actor and all of a sudden you're working all the time. It's very, very, very rare. So it took a few years for me to get warmed up and start getting some gigs, but I just kept working the bars at night and the nightclubs, and that paid the
what was
bills.
it
And
like? What was it like actually being a bouncer, like for a few years?
well,
Like,
I
did you
did it
have
for
any?
many years.
Did you have to throw anyone out?
Of course, I threw a lot of people out. You get in fights. You get it's just it's just like you see when you are in the UK. You see those bouncers.
Oh yeah,
It's a lot of you got a lot of drunks, and so
yeah. Where
I
I live,
worked
you get a lot of drugs.
yeah, I worked a lot of good clubs and stuff, so we'd always have a good security team. So
Did you ever have a night where it was just like ease, not like nothing happened? Did you ever get any of them
of
nights?
course, those are the best nights. Yeah, I don't want to fight. I'm not looking to go get in fights because sometimes you get hurt. I mean, I've had a couple occasions where I was a big guy at 6'5", 350 pounds working, but still, all it takes is the right person to punch you or hit you with the bottle, and you're.
Yeah, that's right. That's
So that
true.
happened a few times.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never been in is a fight on a night out because like I just avoid like you just go out to have a good time and like not start fights, not
Well, you're
don't.
hanging out. You're hanging out with the wrong people.
Yeah, I don't. I avoid all that. So from bouncing, I it's like I've been trying to do a bit of research on you. I won't lie to you. I have been I have been doing a bit of research on you since we got started talking. I'd seen recently. Well, recently I've only just found this out, but you went from being a bouncer to joining into the wrestling world, into UPW. So how did that come about? Like from going to be, like, how did you transition from being a bouncer to going into the wrestling world?
Yeah, well, I was still working the clubs even at that time. I got into wrestling very late in life. I got in, I was 30 years old, and I'm still working the bars. I'm not getting a lot of acting work, and I had a friend, Rick Drazen, the Equalizer. So man, he used to work out with Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those guys, but he was a pro wrestler, and he still was wrestling as he got older. And I said, man, it's just like a midlife crisis. I said, I want to do stuff. So I've always tried to do everything that I wanted to do, right? I did radio. I wanted to do radio. I got into radio. I wanted to have my own host TV shows. I got into that. I wanted to be a pro wrestler, pro wrestling manager, because I've had one wrestling match in my whole existence of 6 years in the wrestling business. And I realized I'm not going to be a wrestler, but I was like a Bobby the Brain Heenan, a Jimmy Hart, and I went to manage Rick one time at this show, Ultimate Pro Wrestling, that was putting it on, and I had a good time. And I asked the promoter, I said, look, and at that time I was just starting to do that TV show Monster Garage, being the voice of that show on Discovery Channel with Jesse James, the bike builder. So I was making money. I said, I don't need any money. I love this business. I love to see what I can do. And I did it for 6 years and helped start a lot of guys like John Cena and Samoa Joe and a whole
What?
slew of other.
With John Cena and Samoa Joe in UPW? Oh,
Yes, that's where they started.
oh right. Oh, I didn't know that. All right,
Yeah,
okay.
so we helped start them, and then I ran the promo class, teaching the guys how to cut promos, and I had my own faction, like the Schwag Army. So I had a bunch of guys, different guys in that, and it was fun. I got to work with a lot of big people, and since we were the minor leagues for the WWF at the time,
Yeah.
Triple H would come, the Hardy Boys would come, and I managed against the Hardy Boys. I took a pedigree from Triple H in the ring, and got to work with Chavo Guerrero, got to work with the Road Warriors. You know, I got to work with a lot of people, but the bottom line is I was a big guy, so the WWF at the time just didn't think of me as a man. They're like, you know, you're bigger than some of the wrestlers. So once I realized I was never going to get the call up to go work for, you know, on TV, then I was like, okay, I'll stick with the acting.
That's amazing, though. But like that, like not to knock it, but like that is amazing to know that you've like helped train like John Cena, like bringing the Road Warriors, the Hardys, Triple H. Like
Well, I didn't.
that's
The Road Warriors and all those guys, they came because they already were under contract with the WWF, so they would come. They would be like a bonus for them to come down to our school and do our shows. John Cena, Samoa Joe, some of these other guys, you know, we were like semi-pro baseball, right? So they would come to us. They would get their training, then they go to Ohio Valley, which was a next step up from us. Then if they were good enough, they'd get called up to TV and be on the big show. So when you have so the WWF would try to do nice things because we are a farm league school for them, and they would send Triple H down, or they would send, you know, these other guys down to do spots with our bigger people. And just so happened when Triple H came, I was lucky enough to come out there and do a little bit with him and my guys, and took his pedigree. Nice guy.
nice guy. I took a pedigree off him. But yeah, no, I recently seen a clip online of you calling out WWE Hall of Famer China and getting her into the ring.
Oh, China.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I just recently seen that clip. What was that like? Like getting to work with her?
Yeah, that's when she had been let go from the WWF, so we had to call her by her real name, Joni Lauer, because the WWF owned that China name. So, yeah, that was fun. She was very nice, you know. And I was Erica Porter was the girl that I managed, who was our UPW Women's Champion, and so we had a little bit. We got to do a little bit with China, and I took her low blow, which you know, I took very well, and you know, I got to look at. I was blessed. She was very cool to work with. I got to work with Diamond Dallas Page, who was great. Took a diamond cutter from him. You know, I've worked with Chavo Guerrero. I mean, I was very lucky, and to live out my childhood dreams because I loved pro wrestling, and get to be able to work with these guys. But in life, you know, if you want to be an entertainer, you got to kind of try to do everything, right? So that's why I've done radio. That's why I've hosted shows. That's why I do a TV show now for YouTube, a YouTube show with Phyllis Rose from Sleepaway Camp. And we just got supposed to get picked up by Screambox for our show. It's called the Killing Time Experience. So you know, if you want to be in this business of entertainment, you got to learn to do everything. And because you don't know what's going to work. You don't know if, you know, your podcast is going to be the next big thing. And then all of a sudden you're on some network, Fox or somewhere else, you know, and all of a sudden so you got to do everything.
Yeah. Well, like with me, like, I mean, I'm not as big as like you are anyone, you know what I mean? But like for me, when I do my YouTube channel, like I don't do it for the money. I just do it for fun. Like just show my collections off, like getting to chat to people like you. Like I don't do it for fame or money or anything. I just do it because like I'm interested in like what you do for a living.
Well, that's a problem now too, because you have all these social influencers. They call themselves. They're trying to get famous so they can make money. You know,
yeah, I'm not.
It doesn't. 9 out of 10 times that doesn't happen. If you put out a good product and people can see you really enjoy what you do. I love the horror movie business. I love pro wrestling. I gave it my all, you know. Now, of course, did I want to get on TV? Sure. But it didn't happen. And I enjoyed my time 6 years in the business with the wrestling. You know, I enjoy when I get to host a TV show. And I've hosted them. I enjoy I had a radio show as well. I enjoy it all, but it's if you go into it thinking you're just going to do it to get rich, that's why you always have to have another job. You got to have
Yeah,
a real job that pays the bills, and then you try the other thing.
yeah.
If the other thing so happens, I've been blessed enough. I do commercials for the last 21 years, the voice of a lawnmower company called Bad Boy Mowers, which I get paid decently, and that pays half of my bills I need to live, and then the rest I got to make up through acting or conventions or doing this, making appearances, and so you always got to have something else to fall back on. I mean, it's just. I mean, you have a regular job, right?
Oh yeah, I do.
See,
I work in a shop, like just stacking shelves for
see,
customers.
so you got to have that. You got to have
Yeah,
there has to be a backup plan. You got to have something, and then you get to explore the stuff that you really,
yeah.
that you want to
I
try
just
to do. So,
yeah, I just do this for fun. Like this is just like a
yeah,
fun hobby for me.
yeah.
But
And I'm glad, by the way, I know that in the first time you started doing these, you used to do it naked. So I want to say thank you for not doing that today.
sorry, say that
That's,
again. Say that again. Sorry.
I said, I know when you first started doing this, you used to do it with no clothes on. So I want to say thank you for putting the clothes back on. It's a joke. It was a joke. It just didn't come across right.
No, sorry. There was like a little like loading screen as you said it, so like I missed it. I was like, oh, it's just one of them daft time and things that.
That's all right.
But yeah, look, for me, I've got a t-shirt on. The rest is just all boxer shorts and nothing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Business on the top, nothing on the bottom.
Yeah. But, so, we love doing, I mean, I love being in, I mean, I started acting because I wanted to be in horror movies, I was a big fan of the Twilight Zone, the Outer Limits, all the Hammer films, from the UK. Loved all that stuff. So, very rarely do you get to, because it took me a long time before I even got to do any kind of. The first horror thing I did was Angel, in makeup, the TV show Angel. Then I did an episode of Buffy. Then I did another episode of Angel, and then I started. Then when I got Texas Chainsaw Massacre to be Leatherface, which is crazy, and the Crazies and a whole bunch. And now I still do. I'll do a lot of independent horror movies, but I've done over 130 different TV shows and movies, and only maybe 10 are horror movie related. So
really, wow. But before we get into the acting side of it, I just want to touch on you doing like say, Monster Garage in pastime. Now, I haven't watched Monster Garage. I will confess, I haven't watched Monster Garage, but I did just watch earlier on today an episode of Pastime, and I've got to say that was like full octane craziness. An episode. Like I will admit, I'm not a big car guy, right? I will confess right now, I'm not like my wife knows I'm not into cars and everything like that. But my wife told me before I come on, she was like, make sure you put a top on. So it's like just like you said. She was like, you're not going without a top on, are you? I was like, well, no. I was like, I'm gonna put a top on. But I will say, like when I watched the episode, it actually the amount of cars that went through an episode, like where they've got to like proper sprint off and then they've got to make the bets and everything. I was like, it was actually like a fun episode to watch. So like I will actually, I think it like drew me in to like just to see like what everyone's betting and like how fast cars are and
and the host was pretty funny. I enjoyed doing that show. That was a very fun show to do for me because I was, did Monster Garage for 6 years as the voice, 7 years as the voice of it. And I would get on camera time to time. And I got my little bit of a name for myself doing that as the big schwag. And a guy that was a producer, and I'd done interviews with him before. I interviewed him, another guy that did another show. And he says, I'm going to find a show for you one of these days. And then he called me. I said, I think I got a show. It was called Name That Test and Tune, which was a dumb name. But he's like, "Do you know anything about drag race?" And I said, well, "I know a little bit, but they explained the situation to me." I said, "I don't need to know much. It's the fastest game show on TV is what it was." And I learned as we went. But we did a 5-episode pilot, which means we shot 5 episodes. The network was there to watch. If they worked, if the fans liked them when they aired them, we would get more episodes. Usually they do one of those for a TV show. They film a pilot, as we call it, and then they put it out there. And if a lot of people watch it, then they go, great, we're going to order 24 episodes. And that's how the stuff goes. We did 5. The president of Speed Channel, which the show was on, was there. And I was, the guy had me very buttoned up and do it this way instead of being myself. And I kept looking up at him and he kept shaking his head, And then on the 4th episode, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be myself. I'm just going to have fun. I'm just, I'm going to talk. I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be this pro wrestling guy, the big schwag, who's just fun and outgoing. And I make fun of myself a lot. And I did it on the show. And I did it. And I remember I had a good time. I looked back up and the guy was giving me the thumbs up. And so after that, the production company never bothered me. They let me do my thing and let me be fun. Let me poke fun of myself. I'm a diabetic guy who drove a Honda Element. They let me make fun and do whatever I wanted and have fun with the crowd. And it became a very successful show. It just happened to be about drag racing, which was great.
Yeah, it looked like, I watched an episode and it looked like really good. Was it on like an actual NASCAR track?
No, it's on a drag strip. So yeah, we would have.
Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no, you're good. So we would shoot like 11 episodes in 3 days at a drag strip. Each show, would have about 11 cars on it. And we would bang those out in 3 days at a weekend at a track. And it was a fun to do, but, yeah, it would have been great to keep going, but it's just, that's one of those things I did. And there's not much I can't host because I didn't know a ton about drag racing, but I know how to talk to the camera and I know how to keep people engaged, which is, and I learned a lot of that from pro wrestling because in pro wrestling, you got to go out there and you have to engage 1,000 people, sometimes 15,000 people, and you got to be able to get them to cheer you or boo you. So I always talk to the camera. So if you watch episodes on YouTube of Pastime, you'll see I'm always talking to the camera because in pro wrestling, that's how you talk to the folks at home. I could be like, yeah, that's the deal, folks. This is what's going on. And so people feel like you're talking to them. And, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, they were very good at that. Even Hulk Hogan, who just passed away, they're all very good at that. And I got to be very good at that. So when I transitioned into hosting a TV show, I like doing that. And it kind of works because the people at home sees you. Yeah, he's talking to us. He's talking to us. And that's what they want to feel. They want to feel engaged and like you are speaking to them personally.
Like you just said there, Hulk Hogan passed away. Were you a fan of Hulk Hogan?
Of course, growing up in the 80s and watching Hulk Hogan, he was, one of the best at what he did in the ring.
Oh, I don't see I've lost him.
And, and he was one of the great ones. Yeah.
Oh, I think I might have lost him. Oh, there you're back. Sorry, your screen just went blank there for a second.
Yeah,
So
Hulk Hogan.
I thought I'd lost.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Hulk Hogan in the 80s, he was great. I mean, he was definitely one of the best at what he did. And, he lived a very good life, made a lot of money, had a good time.
Yeah, I was a fan of the Hulkster growing up. I'm not gonna lie. When he came back, done NWO and everything like that, like it was a good sports entertainer. I was a big Hulk fan. But back to cars for a second. Even though I just said I'm not a big fan of cars, there is one car in particular that I've always liked, and that is the Shelby GT500 from Nicolas Cage's Gone in 60 Seconds. I don't know what it is about that car, like how sleek it looks, like the design of it all, but that is a car, like since I've seen that car off that film, that is probably the only car that I've ever like thought like, wow, what a car.
Yeah, great car. Very, very expensive car to get.
I
You
know.
know, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars if you can find a good one of those.
No, no, and I don't really like paying for much. Like, I'm not an expensive type of guy, but it's just have to go one of them expensive cars. But right now, I want to get onto the acting side of things. Like you just said, like there, when you first started acting, you starred in one of my favorite TV shows, Buffy and Angel. Like, who came to hear about that? Like, how did you hear about that show?
Well, the show was great. It was hot at, it was a super hot show at the time. So when I got it, I was obviously tickled pink. I got to get in makeup. I play one of them. I play Bogdar the Demon, which was very tough makeup. I have a picture here. I don't know. Very tough to do, but very rewarding. It's what I wanted to do. And the good thing about when you're on a hot show at the time is that they don't care about how long it goes. So as an actor, let's say for 3 days, let's say I'm making about $1,800 to $2,200 US. But when you have a hot show and they don't care that they're going to do overtime and double time, you work 14 hours, 15 hours in a day. You're making 2,500 just in that day because of overtime and everything. So as an actor and paying your bills, it's a wonderful thing to be on when that's a big show and you're getting to work. And then as an actor myself also that loves the horror business, it was obviously a big dream come true. And it was very good.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't even realize you were in it until like obviously I've been doing my research on you and everything. But yeah, like once when I rewatch it, like obviously I rewatch Buffy and Angel like pretty much every other year. So like I will be keeping my eye out for like to spot like because obviously I know who you play now, so I'll be like, oh, like
Yeah,
that's it.
and in Buffy, I have a very tiny part as a truck driver, and I'm in the episode. I'm in the last episode of season 6, the last like 2 minutes of the of the episode. So very simple to find me there. But one of the movies I really enjoyed doing was The Crazies, 2010, which was a remake of a George Romero movie. One of my favorite directors of all time, with Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, two of my favorite movies, and got to do the remake of The Crazies, which was awesome. And you can watch that for free all over the place on streaming and YouTube. So if you haven't watched it, go watch The Crazies with
Yeah,
Timothy Oliphant and the Big Schwag.
I actually remember going to the pictures to see it, but I think did I have it? I think I had it on DVD, but I think I got rid. I think I uh, got rid of it. But I do remember going to the cinema to see it. But that was a long time ago. It was a while ago. But right now, right now, this is what like I'm really excited to talk to you about. um, you got cast as Leatherface in the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Right, but before we get into all of it, were you a fan of the original?
Oh, of course. The original was great. I'm a big fan of part 3. A guy that I used to do bouncing with and being a bodyguard with, R.A. Mihailov, was in part 3 in 1986, and he played Leatherface. So we would go up against each other a lot in auditions, and I would see him work in the bar with him, work in the clubs with him. And yeah, I went in and auditioned for it, got the gig, you know, That was obviously a dream come true. Called like 1,000 people, probably called 80 people. And then the casting director called me back like a half hour later and said, by the way, don't tell anybody. And I was like, oh, crap. I just called everybody. And obviously, it's a big deal it would have been a big deal even if I wasn't a horror movie fan to get the part. It was awesome.
So like when they announced that they were going to make it, how did you hear about like they were casting for that?
Well, there wasn't. They really were going to hire some local hire, which means they probably would have got some guy in Texas where they were filming, who could have been a doorman somewhere, could have been an ex-Cowboy, Dallas Cowboy football player, could have been a friend of the producers. And I went in for a commercial audition one time, and when you go in for commercial auditions, they may be casting 5 or 6 different commercials there in each room. Room 1 will be Ford, room 2, Guinness beer, room 3, Camden beer, which is my favorite English beer, by the way, Camden. Or Doritos or something. And I saw TCM, and I'm like, I don't even know why they would be casting. I knew it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I called my commercial agent. He called the casting director, and they were trying to find us a girl for a small part in the movie. And I said, if Michael Bay, who, was the man behind that movie, has not cast Leatherface yet, can we put Brett on camera? And she said, they haven't cast it yet. And I went in the next day, and she said, what do you want to do? I said, just roll the camera. And I pleaded my heart out to Michael Bay, saying, don't go hire some guy that has no idea about this part. I said, the original and Gunnar Hansen, that's a legend. It's a big deal. He was a legendary guy. He was a big, meaty son of a bitch. And I picked up the girl working the camera, which I didn't tell her, and I threw her over my shoulder, and I said, I'll see you in Texas. And the next day they called me back and said, Michael Bay thought you were funny. And I got the gig. And I was like, well, that's great. Now, you flash forward 2 months later when we're filming, and I was there for maybe 3 days into filming. And we had the first big day for me of filming is where I killed Kemper, the boyfriend with the sledgehammer, drag him through the house, and then slam the door shut, which was made famous by Gunnar Hansen in the first one. And it was so hot, I could feel myself heating up. It was in Austin. I think we were filming in June, July, or August. I forget because it's 21 years ago. And I started heating up, and I remember I fell down to the floor, and I said, hey, I got to get this mask off. I went outside, laid down, drank like 7 Gatorades, and I thought I was good. But when I stood up, my back tightened up, because when you're devoid of water with heat exhaustion or heat stroke, you're devoid of water, your muscles will tighten up. So now I have a problem because, we're the first week into this movie that's going to take 2 months to shoot, and my back is tightened up. So I finished doing the drag with him and slamming the door shut a few times, and then I went to the hospital. But they asked me, how long is it going to take for your back to heal? And I said about a week, and I knew that wasn't going to be good enough. So a couple of days later, I got the knock at the door saying, hey, we're unfortunately got to send you home. And they brought in another guy, Andrew, to finish off the movie. So
oh, it's such a shame.
Yeah, it was, believe me, because that cost me the rest of that movie. And then it also cost me the prequel called The Beginning they did. But, and I didn't talk about it for many years, but some of the magazines were saying, there was another guy who was Leatherface in that movie. And that was me. And I started to accept it and met Gunnar Hansen from the original while he was alive. And he said, hey, that's still pretty cool. You're still part of the family. And the Saws family, and I've come to accept it. I didn't get to do the whole movie, but I am the first Leatherface you see in the movie, and I think I did a pretty good job.
You did, but what before? I just want to go back a little bit before you started filming. What was your reaction to the first time seeing the costume that you had to put on?
Well, it was gnarly. It's one of the mask, especially a guy named Scott Stoddard did the mask, and it's pretty gnarly. It's one of the best. It's probably the scariest mask besides Part Two that they've ever made for Leatherface, and the costume was gnarly. I still wear it. I'll be wearing it this weekend in Germany for photo ops with folks. It's a big deal at the conventions. People like to do the full costume photo ops when you're in Leatherface. I remember when we were doing a test in Pasadena, California, where they did, or where we had to check on the costume. I was heating up pretty quickly, and I probably should have said something then, and I didn't because I was just excited that I got cast as Leatherface. But I probably should have said something because there's stuff you can do. You can get a cool suit which goes underneath your costume and keeps you cool. And if I ever did that again, I would make sure that happens. But you live and learn. So I learned a valuable lesson. Cost me a lot of money, and I'm sure some of those producers were not very happy with me. However, Arrow Videos is putting out a new release. It comes out in August, a 4K version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 and the one after the beginning. And they called me and asked me if I wanted to do an interview about my time as Leatherface. They call it the Lost Leatherface because a lot of the fans did not know there was another Leatherface in the movie. So they called me the Lost Leatherface. And so I got to see the interview. It's about 25 minutes long. It's excellent. And I get to tell you the story of how I was Leatherface, even if it was for a day and a half or a week, as I like to say. And it tells the whole story. And I'm very excited for the fans that love the movie and the franchise to get to see that on Arrow Video.
Yeah, I was just saying that with the mask, did they have to mold that to your face, like to make it on your face? Did
Sure.
they have to mold it on?
Yeah, you do a thing called a live cast. Yeah, you do a live cast where they put all the goop on you and they sculpt it, and then they take it off, which I'm not a big fan of. I get a little claustrophobic, and then they start sculpting it, and then you are, once they do the makeup and they get the hair on it, that's what you're left with right there. So, and this is a duplicate. This is a $600 replica of what we wore, and but I use this for when I do costume photo ops and whatnot, and it's I believe our mask was silicone. Try to put it back down here. Sorry. But it's anytime you do mask work, it's or creature work as we call it. It's not easy, because you have to long hours in the makeup chair, even hotter. The stuff is hot, and then God forbid you got to go and be physical in this costume, and you got to kill people and chase them.
Like you said there, obviously the fans call you the Lost Leatherface, but that much I recently watched it yesterday. Like I watched the full film yesterday, and I also watched the documentary on the DVD with it, like all the extras. And sadly, you aren't like featured on it or talked about it at all on there. So to find out that they are going to bring something out like for you, like you said, the Lost Leatherface, that must be like finally rewarding to know that you were to let everyone know that you were in it.
Yeah, listen, I'm excited. I mean, as I said, I'm sure the production company and Michael Bay and everybody was not happy when I got hurt. And because when you have a $18 million movie and you got the guy, and then on the first big day of filming he gets hurt, that's not a good thing. And but I think 21 years later, it took a long time for me to accept it because I was embarrassed. I mean, anytime you get a part like that, especially if you're a fan of the genre, and then all of a sudden you are Leatherface and then you are not, And that movie goes on. Now look at Marcus Nispel, that director. He's a friend of mine, a good friend now. In fact, he's going to be in Germany with me. And I haven't seen him in probably 15, 16 years. So I'm excited. Um, uh, when you come to accept it, and the fans are still excited to meet you and get an autograph from you, and literally in the movie, I'm the first Leatherface you see. I'm the guy that slams the door shut like Gunnar Hansen. So to me, I'm
Well,
very proud of that. And there's not
well,
much,
yeah,
there's not many
because you've
people
got.
that can. Go ahead.
Oh, so yeah. Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, 'cause that was my next question. Like, you must be over the moon. I know, even though you were only in it for that one scene, but you did get that iconic. You got to like recreate that iconic from the original where you get slammed the door. I mean, even though
Yeah,
you were only in it for like a short amount of time, you still got to do like such an iconic scene.
a minute and 58 seconds. Don't cut me short.
Well, but it's still iconic though. I mean, like you still
Oh,
got
I
the.
know, of course. Yeah, yeah. Listen, it's still a big deal. In our circles, it's a big deal. And it's like I said, it just took a long time to embrace it, and now I've come to accept it, and I love it. And I've done a lot of other stuff. The horror movies is just a little part of what I've accomplished in my 37, 36, or 35 years of acting. I've done over 130 TV projects. And like I said, I'm working on NCIS tomorrow. So, I'm going to keep going and doing my acting. And if some more, I recently did a couple lower budget films called Desert Fiends and Desert Fiends 2, which are very fun, kind of Hills Have Eyes, very kind of gross humor and a lot of blood and stuff. And those are out. So I still occasionally will do a few horror movies and like to do them. And, it's just, there's not much else I can do, right? I'm an actor, right? But I'm also a 57-year-old actor. So I'm not going to go back and work bars and throw people out of bars. So that would be crazy. So you just got, as an entertainer, and this is my advice to folks, you just got to keep doing stuff. If someone says, hey, want you to do a podcast, you go do it. If someone says, I have an opportunity for you to be a co-host on this show, you go do it. If someone says, I have a radio show, you go do it, because you just want to keep doing stuff to keep yourself busy and to make money. You never know what's going to hit. You never know what will pay your rent next month. You never know that. I mean, who would have known some of these, Joe Rogan's podcast, right? It's the biggest podcast in the world, for God's sakes. And I don't think the guy started out to do a podcast. He was doing a thing, having some of his friends on and talking about stuff. There is a podcast, Kill Tony, who's a comedian in LA, and he's been doing something for 10 years, not in LA, in Austin, Texas. And he does a thing, the Kill Tony thing, and he brings in all these comics. There's a panel, and then he brings out these comics, and they get a minute in front of a large crowd to do some stand-up. And these are people that have never done it before. They just started. And he's made a lot of famous people out of this stuff. And you never know what's going to happen. So you have to be prepared and ready for everything. And you take a chance. It may not work, but you just got to take that chance.
Wow. Well, that's good advice to anyone wanting to do whatever they want to do. That's the best way you can do it, I suppose. Just take a
Anything in
chance.
life. You want to be a bartender? Then go try it. You want to be I know you wanted to be a male stripper for many years. It didn't work out, but it could have.
Damn gigolo days. Before we move on to my final question, would it be possible for you to put on the mask?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Well, let's see if I can get this thing on. All right, I'll be right back. Hold on.
All right. Wow. That looks amazing.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. Thank you so much for putting that on.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
look it's fun. I love going to the cons. They don't always happen, right? Especially going overseas. Next year, I'm working on because I've never done. There's a big show called For the Love of Horror in Manchester. That's the biggest horror movie convention there is. So I think next year, November, I will be over in the UK again for that. And if you guys are out that way, you should make plans to come say hello. And most of us that do these shows, we love to meet the fans, whether you buy something or not, as long as you come by and say hello. And, like right now, I'm wearing my More Brains hat, little ode to my buddy Tom Matthews, is in Return of the Living Dead. And he's also Tommy Jarvis in Friday the 13th, Part 6. So it's nice to be able to go do these things. You get to travel with your friends. You get to see people that I idolized growing up, watching the movies, and then I love to try different things. I love the food in different countries and states and everything. So that's how I came across that English Camden beers, and I like the Camden. Nice, refreshing.
Do you know what? When you've just mentioned For the Love of Horror, I am going this year for the very first time. Because like it's something that I've always seen like everyone posts on Instagram and Facebook like every year, and it's something I've always wanted to do. And this year I'm finally going, and I cannot wait. Why couldn't
It's
you be going this
big.
year? Why couldn't you be going this year? I couldn't meet you this year.
It's big,
I don't.
man. It's big. It's the biggest horror related show in Europe. So definitely in England, in that area. So it's and they bring in top notch guests, and they have it's a lot of things to do. It's great. So no
Yeah,
excuses.
yeah. This year, they're making it like a big Scream event this year with like Matthew Lillard, Skeet Aldridge, Lee Waddle, and Jamie Kennedy, loads of other people. And they've got Nick Castle going, who I'm
Nick's
going to
great.
meet. I can't wait for that.
So you just mentioned
Yeah,
two of my good. You mentioned two of my good friends. Jamie Kennedy is a very good friend of mine. As an actor, I was on two of his prank shows, the Jamie Kennedy Experience, and now through the convention, I've done his podcast. And Lee Waddell, stuntman who extraordinaire, who was the first Ghostface. They call him the original Ghostface killer, Lee Waddell. Very good guy. We've also done a couple of movies together as actors. He will dabble in acting now, not doing stunts, but. And let me tell you something, Matthew Lillard, if you have never seen, he is so good with the fans, but I have watched that guy at a convention spend hours and do 500 photo ops with people. Just imagine 500 photo ops. I mean, you're in there for hours and then come back out and sign pictures in line too. Just so the Scream phenomenon. There's a couple people that are big at conventions. Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, Kane Hodder, obviously, Jason. Elvira is a big deal at conventions. Bruce Campbell, The Evil Dead, big at conventions. But maybe the biggest, Clive Barker as well. Clive Barker when he does them. But Matthew Lillard and that whole Scream thing are so big. It is crazy.
Yeah, when they announced they were doing a photo op with him and Skeet Aldridge, considering how big the event is, it sold out in like 4 minutes. Like the full.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So like I was like it's on my phone, like trying to scramble to get a photo. But it's just crazy, like the amount of guests they've got going, and I mean I've paid to like get loads of things signed, and because like it's my first one, so I'm going to make the most of it. So I've just been like biding my time. I've just been buying one each month, so I'm not like blowing all my money at once, so I'm not skinting myself.
Yeah, you got to be
But
careful because you can spend
I'm
some
looking
money at
forward to
these
getting
things.
I found a Lost Boys soundtrack CD in like your version. It's like a charity shop. Your version of a thrift store. For like 50p or 50 cents. So like I'm gonna get a picture with Tim Capello, like with the saxophone, and I'm gonna get him to sign that. Yeah. so
You
yeah.
got to
I'm
believe.
looking.
Yes, the
So I'm looking
Lost
forward.
Boys.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, last
But yeah.
question, big man. I got to go pack.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah. It was just last question. Well, we've just been talking about it really. When you go to the Comic Cons, like it must mean the world here that like people are still coming up about the Texas Chainsaw, the crazies, like everything you've been in, just to talk to you and get things signed. I mean, it must mean like the world that like people are acknowledging like the stuff that you're loving to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're blessed. We really are blessed that I was in a movie 21 years ago. And because of that movie and a few of the other things I've done, I'm able to travel. The promoters pay for your flights, they pay for your rooms. Maybe you get a per diem so you can eat, food each day. And then to meet the fans come up, and when they say something like, well, that, was very, pivotal in my life, and I was in a bad place, and I watched that movie or I watched that TV show and it made me laugh, or because I'm the same way. As I said, I go and do shows and I'll meet somebody that when I was a kid I was a huge fan of, or when I was a young man I was like, oh my God, and then I meet them, and 9 out of 10 times they're great, they're awesome, they're nice, and it is truly a blessing. And that's why I say, if you go to a convention, you're more than welcome to come up to my table and say hello and shake my hands, and you don't have to buy something, just come over and say hello. Because yeah, am I there to make money and have a good time? Of course. But am I also there to be able to meet people and shake their hand and say, hey, nice to meet you? Yeah. Because, if we didn't have fans like that, because I'm a fan, then we wouldn't have shows. There'd be no shows. There'd be no conventions, and there'd be nothing. And so as actors or celebrities, if you want to say, going to these conventions, we're very lucky that we get to do it. And yeah, it is a true blessing. And yeah, it's the gift that keeps giving.
That's it. You've answered all my questions. I just want to say a big thank you for, like I said at the beginning, it means a lot to me that you took the time. I know you've got like a mental schedule coming up. So I just want to say thank you again for just taking your time out to talking to just someone like me, like a regular guy, just loving to talk about your career in horror in general. So again, thank you so much. And if you ever want to come on the channel again, you are more than welcome. More than happy to have you on.
All right, buddy. Hey, I appreciate it. And we'll see you 2026 for the love of horror. You're gonna have to come out and have a nice pint of Camden with me.
I'll try my hardest to get there. I promise.
All right, buddy.
But anyway, thank you so much. And I will see you later.
Are we out? Did you stop it?
Oh.
No. Still recording.
I thought you were gonna go. Sorry. I'll finish it off. And
All right,
there we
bud.
have it. There we have it. That was my. Oh, no, he's gone. I should have said. And there we have it. That was my full interview with the Lost Leatherface, Brett Wagner from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. He's been in all sorts. I've had an amazing time talking to him. For everyone who watched and who was going to watch, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch it. Expect loads of more content on Antwood Movie Mania. And if you enjoyed this, please leave your likes, your comments, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. See you later.